Today, we're doing EVP sessions with some pretty awesome gear and showing you how exactly to use it. Welcome everyone to Haunted Husbands. I am of course one of your co-hosts, Matt Haslam. Along with my husband, Michael Martin Jr., we go around and explore abandoned buildings and potentially haunted locations, trying to collect evidence of real-life ghosts. With the tools that we use, there's a lot of confusion on how to use them, and to be honest, a lot of people don't know the flaws in some of these pieces of equipment that could potentially cause some interference, so you might get false positives of evidence. And a lot of people watch the ghost hunting shows thinking, oh my god, they captured so much, not realizing it's an edited program that took in real time a couple days to film. And to be honest, I'm a massive gearhead myself. I love picking up a piece of equipment and knowing the limitations of that piece of equipment and knowing that piece of gear inside and out. So if something happens, I can go, that sound wasn't supposed to be there, and that's not something that piece of tech does normally. I love that. I've been working in the TV and film industry and audio, live audio recording for about 23 years now. I have an associate's degree in audio and video production, so I hope that helps you understand that I know what I'm talking about with these pieces of equipment. One of the main pieces of equipment that are used out there trying to collect EVPs is the Zoom H4n or Zoom H6. There's a lot of pieces of equipment that you can use for this same job, but it's pretty much all the same. You can use Tascam, recorders, and so on, but the main product line that most ghost investigators use is the Zoom line of products because they're so phenomenal at recording and they capture such great audio with such good battery life. Honestly, these are really good quality for a minimal price tag, right? Even on the new market nowadays, I mean, these are kind of old. The Zoom H4n, you can get these for, I think, like $150 US. The Zoom H6, which is the more newer model of them, you can get these for like $300-400, and that's relatively inexpensive for all you're getting in this jam-packed device, right? So really quickly, we're gonna go over the piece of equipment itself, how to use it, what to look out for, and then we're gonna go over how to actually conduct an EVP session, which is an electronic voice phenomenon recording. And we're gonna give you some tips on what to ask, how to introduce yourself, and how to capture the best evidence out there for ghost investigating. So let's quickly go over the Zoom H4n, which is the older model, but a lot of people still use these on ghost shows like Project Fear or Ghost Adventures. You're gonna see this a lot out there. Why? Well, because it's really great quality still, right? These microphones on the top can capture audio from 2 to 3 city blocks away. Seriously, these are powerful devices for really low prices, right? So they have 90 degrees or 120 degree microphone pickup patterns on the top here. All you need to do is twist the microphone itself and you get 90 or 120 degrees depending on which one aligns with the black dot at the top of your device. What does that mean? Well, 90 degrees means it's basically capturing audio in that X pattern in the forward direction. If you have this on top of your camera, it's going to capture audio in that direction, anywhere in front of your camera or whatever rig that you have it on. If you have it on a tripod, it's going to capture audio in that direction. 120 means it's capturing audio from almost entirely around it. Pretty much omni. You're not going to be capturing audio from directly behind it, but you're capturing audio from over here all the way over to there, right? Just not directly behind. On these, it's pretty basic, right? So you have a couple buttons here on the front, which input are you using? If you're using the microphones on the top, you want that mic, M-I-C, on red. 1 and 2 means 1 and 2 channels down here. These are XLR inputs, right? So let's say we have another microphone, which is highly recommended. This is the Samson CO2 cardioid microphone. These are fantastic microphones and I cannot recommend them enough. They're used for choirs, large bands, on top of drum sets. These are used for large ensembles, right? But they can be great in a ghost hunt because you can put these in every single room that you're hunting or investigating and put it directly in a center, pointing upwards. And it's going to capture audio from all around it. And with this, you can put it on a simple microphone stand. It comes with the microphone clip that you can put it on a microphone stand. You can get a microphone stand for like $5 or $10 each, right? Like not that expensive to put in the middle of the room. And each of these microphones cost about $60 US. Not that expensive for a phenomenal microphone, truly. These I use pretty much on every single event I'm going to, and I use all the time for live audio recording of different choir concerts or band concerts for videography work. So these are really great. I've been using them for about 15 years now without a single flaw in the system. All you have to do is you have to get an XLR cable like this, which is relatively inexpensive. You can pick these up at your local music store. Relatively inexpensive, like I think a 5-footer, really high quality 5-foot cable like this might run you about $10, $15. One that's like 20 foot long or 50 foot long, you might want to get for if you have these microphones set up in every room of the house that you're investigating. You can set up one of these in the middle of that room, point it directly upwards on a microphone stand, and have however many you want around a location. Each one of these, though, would have to connect to a Zoom H4n or a Zoom H6 on its own separate channel. That way you can separate it later and say, that microphone was in this room. You also want to, in that sort of situation, after hitting record, go to each room and say, this is the bedroom, or this is the living room, or whatever. That way, in later post-production, and you can find that in the editing room of, oh, that microphone in that channel was in the living room, rather than trying to figure it all out later. So I highly suggest that. Using external microphones is always a good option. These are really high quality mics and they're super, super affordable. So with these, all you have to do is plug them into the microphone, put it on the microphone stand, and now put it directly up in the room, and it captures the room's audio the entire evening. And then you plug the other end into your Zoom H4n on the bottom or your Zoom H6 on the side. On these devices, it's very, very simple, right? Cannot stress that enough. These are really user-friendly. With the Zoom H6, they went even further in the Zoom line to make it more user-friendly than this. So we're gonna get to that in just a second. You have headphone jack, so you can plug this into a regular pair of headphones and listen back live to your audio recording as you're recording it, or listen back immediately after your EVP session to see if anything was there in the background. Your volume button is going to be for the volume of your headphones. USB is if you're plugging it into a computer to capture it like a live stream would be, but you don't really need that for this use right here. This is your power button. You just hold it down and it powers the device on. On this other end, you have the menu and toggle button for navigating the simple menu in the folders here, and your record level of up and down, and the SD card input for where you put your SD card. I highly suggest getting a great quality SD card for these devices. That way you're capturing the best quality audio possible in a WAV file, not an MP3 file. That way you're capturing the biggest file you can, and that way later on you can boost that audio as much as you want to a certain extent, and you can hopefully hear the things you need to hear in the background. If there's a whisper down the hall and you have an MP3 file or a small file on a really old SD card that's not big enough, then you may not be able to hear that or boost it later in post-production, what we call it, in editing. But if you have a really good quality SD card in there, you can crank the file up to the largest file size possible, and now you can actually go there in editing and find, wow, oh my God, that was whispered way down the hall, right? So that's really cool. With this, you're gonna see a record button, play and pause button, and a stop button on these devices, along with a back and forward button. That's how you're gonna navigate the files. If you wanna go back to the last file or fast forward or, reverse a little bit in the audio file, you can press that. But for the most part, what you're going to be using is the record, play, and stop button. Record button on these Zoom H4n is a pretty simple record button, but a lot of people mistakenly think a flash button is a record. I'll explain that in a second. So when you press this once, you're going to see it flashing red, right? So it's going to go red on, off, red on, off, and it's going to flash up and down. And you might think that's recording, right? Because it's warning you, hey, something's happening. Truly, that's just a preview of the recording. What it's doing is it's allowing you to hear through your headphones what those microphones are capturing at that moment. If you're doing a live concert or some sort of film project, you want to be able to hear what the microphones are hearing at the moment. So you're going to turn it on preview, but you're not really recording anything yet. So it's just giving you a preview of what it's going to be recording in a moment. For these, you have to hit that record button a second time, and that flashing red light is going to turn into a constant on red light. And that means this device is currently recording. When you're done recording after your session, you're going to hit the stop button. And you want to hit that stop button before plugging your headphone jack into any sort of portable speaker that you have. If you plug it into a portable speaker and have it on preview, flashing red, or recording, constant red light on over here, then you're going to create a feedback loop, because basically your speaker is projecting the audio coming out of this microphone at the same time of recording that audio, right? And so now you're creating this little feedback loop, and you're going to hear this very high-pitched sound. You don't want that. So if you're plugging this into a portable speaker on the side, then hit the stop button, the square button first, then plug it into your portable speaker to hear that audio back. Now, these do have a speaker on the back of them that you can listen through that as well, instead of a portable speaker. So that is an option as well. That's the great part of these devices. You can hear it back directly from this speaker. But then the play button allows you to play that last file back over again, to hear it over and over again as many times as you want. Now, on the Zoom H6 devices, things got a whole lot more user-friendly in these. Because again, you have the record, play, and pause, and stop buttons. You also have channel select up here of left, right, means left and right microphones. 1, 2, 3, and 4 means 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's also indicated by 1, 2, 3, and 4 up here. Those are volume knobs. So you can actually, if you're hearing something in the room and go, oh, there's something happening in the living room, I can go to that and just turn up the volume button and go, I want to capture more of that right now. You know, if something really loud happens, you can turn that knob down live while you're recording if you're plugged into a headphone jack as well, listening live. So that's massively beneficial on a lot of different investigations. This is all very user-friendly with knobs on the top, so you understand exactly what level everything is, including these two microphones have their own volume knob up here as well. Again, these have 90 or 120 degree radiuses, depending on how you twist them. So you want to make sure that's on, depending on where you have this. Let's say you have it in the middle of the room and you want to capture as much as possible, then turn them to 120 on both of these, right? But let's say you have it on top of a camera rig and you're wanting to capture audio down the hall in front of you only, then you want to turn it back to 90. So that's all controlled right up here. The sound level is all controlled by these 5 buttons. And the thing I love about the Zoom H6 is you get to have a backup file, which is amazing. Let's say you recorded at too high of a volume and you're trying to capture the audio in the room so much that you turned your microphone up to a pretty high level to capture what is there in the silence, right? But you're talking as well. So your talking is going to be a whole lot louder than the silence of the room. Now, one thing that you may not understand is that's going to peak on your audio file, but you can create a backup file, an automatic one, that records at 20 decibels less than your main file automatically right here on the same SD card. So that backup file can now have your audio from you speaking at 20 decibels less than anything else you recorded. So you get to hear yourself in good quality audio, and then your main microphones record everything else at a higher volume. So that's really cool as well. How do you record on this one though? Well, this one isn't like the Zoom H4n. It's a whole lot easier and user-friendly. All you have to do once the device is turned on and you have an SD card in the slot that has some room on it, all you need to do is hit the record button right there, and you'll see a red light constantly on right there. And that means it's recording in real time. To stop that recording, you just hit the stop button and you can immediately play it back right there. And again, this has a speaker right built into on the back, and you can stop that, go forward or reverse on your file as well with the other buttons. These are super user-friendly to use. I love the Zoom line of products and how user-friendly they are. Now, one thing I will note about any of the Zoom line or Tascam or any recorder you have is power. These use up AA batteries quite rapidly, so you're gonna want to get yourself an adapter cable. Now, Zoom H4n or Zoom H6, you can get these from Zoom directly. They're a little more expensive that way, like $30, $40, but you can get one from Amazon that's made for the same compatible devices for like 10 bucks. It should come with one. So Zoom, if you're listening, include one maybe. But for these, it's like 10 bucks on Amazon. So it's not terrible of a price tag. This allows you to plug it into a wall outlet if you have a location that still has power. But if you're without power, you can actually just search for Zoom H6 power adapter to USB, right? So you can actually go to a USB power adapter battery pack that you would use for like a cell phone extra battery, right? So that's something to invest in as well if you're looking at using these for longer periods of time on a location that doesn't have power. Now that we know somewhat of how the hardware itself works, how do you actually conduct an EVP session with one of these? Well, again, they're super powerful. So we don't want to hold this in our hand. That would be way too much wiggling no matter how still you try to hold this thing. You don't want to hold it on a camera rig on your shoulder because that's wiggling around too much as well. What you want to do is simply take it, put it down on a table in front of you, put it down on the floor in front of you or on a chair, something to hold this in place. Put it on a tripod or a light stand and leave it go. Don't touch it. The more you touch these devices, the more false positives you might get of, oh, we heard something in the background. No, that was just you touching the device in real time. And unless you had a camera on you in that moment to show you were touching it, you're not going to remember that later when you're going back through the audio files and going, oh my God, there was this loud bang. No, it was you touching the device, okay? Now, I know a lot of people out there will want to just start asking questions of, are you a demon? Are you so-and-so from this location of the history? Yes, I do suggest researching the building or wherever you're going first before going there. Try to know who you're going to talk to. What spirits supposedly haunt that location? Who used to live there? Who was the original builder of that location, right? So on and so forth. Who was the director of the building when it first opened, right? You want to know those sort of things so you know who to ask questions to if someone's coming through. Initially, just like a conversation you would have at a local grocery store with one of your real life friends, you want to introduce yourself first. So go around your entire circle of people or whoever's there and say, hi, my name is Matt. Hi, my name is Michael, or whatever you have in your group. Come back around. And then once everyone introduced themselves, ask your first question. Now you want to ask questions that are simple at first, like, what year is it for you here? What's your name? Ask them things that they might want. If you're a ghost and a spirit trapped in a building for 100 years, everyone's coming along trying to ask you, what's your name? Are you a demon? Are you a good spirit? All this other stuff that ghost hunting investigations always do. Well, maybe ask them a simple question of, what can we do for you? Is there anything you'd like to say? Is there anyone you'd like me to talk to? What can I do for you? If you're a ghost in these locations, think about it like they would. I haven't been able to touch anything, do anything for 100 years. Suddenly someone comes along and offers to do something for me? Ask me what I want to happen or what I want to do? I'm going to talk to that person. that investigator first. Next, keep in mind that this is a friendly conversation. Don't just jump to, are you the killer? Is the killer here? No, like, that's not going to get you what you want in the end. That's something, if you capture something, go back and do a follow-up question on. But initially just be like, what is your name? What can I do for you? What year is it for you? Simple questions, right? And while you're asking questions, keep in mind, don't just ask them back to back. Don't just say, hi, my name is Matt. What's your name? What's your favorite color? What would you like me to do? Don't just rapid fire these questions because they can't respond then. Give them a few seconds to respond like a normal conversation. What's your name? What can I do for you? What year is it for you? That way they have time to respond. Give them at least 5 to 10 seconds between questions to respond. And tell anyone in the group with you to give the spirits enough time to respond to that question before asking whatever question they would like to ask next. So once you do that, then you want to hit the stop button, and then you can immediately play it back with the play button right here. You can play that file back with the speakers here, or plug it into an external portable speaker, like a JBL speaker or something like that, battery powered, and play it back that way. Now, while you're listening to this file back, listen in on those pauses. See if there's anything in the background. If you hear something, play it back again and try to listen even closer. I don't suggest doing 20, 30, 40 questions at a time. Maybe ask 5 questions. Stop, play it back, then do another 5 with another recording. That way you can sort of respond in almost real time to these responses if you're capturing them. But these are super user-friendly devices to use in real time. They're professional quality, so when you get that file back into your editing bay or in your computer, you can boost that audio later and really hear it come through. You're going to hear a lot of things in ghost investigating. You might hear creaks in the building. It might be a 100-year-old building that's just trying to settle. That's going to happen. Now, here's the fun part about these devices. Don't just take the first time as the end-all response. If you hear something on a playback, immediately stop, hit record again, and ask that question a second time. What if someone was walking by outside and said that word at that specific time? What if there was a siren going off down the road or a police car driving by? What if, someone was walking around somewhere else in that building and just happened to have a creak in the room? Well, you want to ask that question a second time to ensure that it's an intelligent response. But again, the more times you ask the question and get the same response, the more intelligent you can consider that response to be from the other side. Now, one thing I will note about these devices is that they can also be interfered with. Let's say you have a cell phone that's right next to your device, right? If you get a text message, that can actually cause a little bit of interference in the audio file on that SD card. So in real time, you're not going to really hear that on your headphones, but while you're playing it back, maybe that audio file has a little bit of interruption or a little spike in audio, or maybe there's like some frequency change there and a high-pitched sound. That could just be you got a text message with a cell phone that was laying right next to this device. So if you're going to do EVP sessions, keep your cell phones away from these devices as much as you can. But audio is still one of the best quality things you can capture from an investigation, because it's one of the things that has the least amount of interference from other devices that you have. Other pieces of equipment that we're going to talk about in this series can get a lot of interference from radios or cell phones more than others, but for audio, it's more reliable to capture it with one of these devices. But if you can't afford something like this, you can get yourself a simple audio recorder from Walmart, Best Buy, or one of those type of stores. Ones on Amazon sell for like $30 US, and they're made for recording business meetings and professional settings, right? You can sit them on the table in front of you and record to take notes during a seminar in college or something, right? But those can be just as good for this sort of use of recording an EVP session. They're a little less quality audio, I will say, but they're just as good in a pinch if you can't afford a $150 H4n or a $300 H6. But with all of these audio devices, just stay as still as possible. Explain to your group, while we're recording, everyone try to stay still, breathe slowly and softly to yourself. Don't breathe out of your mouth or something like that, right? And don't move around too much in your chair because that can create false positives in the recording. So that's something to keep in mind. Audio is a more reliable way of capturing some evidence out there compared to some other devices, but it is susceptible to false positives once you start interfering with that audio and people moving around different places in the building, or it's just an old building, it's going to creak and create sound sometimes. Or down the street, there might be a siren going off. So keep that in mind and always ask your questions 2-3 times if need be. If you're capturing some audio and you hear that response, immediately stop, hit record again, and ask it again. And if you get the same response, then you might have captured something really awesome. But if you're not capturing anything, then maybe it's time to move on to a different device. And that's something we'll cover in our next part of our series here on the devices you can use. So anyway, that is how to use the Zoom line of products for ghost investigating. I hope you enjoyed this first part in our series. Next, we're going to talk about another piece of ghost investigating gear and how to use it, some of the ways you can ask questions to the spirits on the other side, and some ways it can be susceptible to false positives and interference. So we're going to be going through a lot of different types of devices in this series. I hope you're enjoying it so far. If you are, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more. So thank you all so much for watching. This has been Haunted Husbands. Have a spooky day, everyone, and happy ghost hunting.